They say hotels are temporary homes for the living, but some guests never check out. Some linger in the walls, whisper through the vents, or leave imprints on the bedsheets long after they're gone. I should know. I work at one of those places, a hotel where strange things happen in the dead of night, where guests disappear without a trace, and where the rules aren't just guidelines. They're the only thing keeping us alive. 3 rules. That's all. They were given to me the moment I started working here, scrawled on a yellowed piece of paper in trembling handwriting. Rule 1. If you hear knocking on your door after 3 a.m., do not answer it, no matter how familiar the voice sounds. Rule 2. If you wake up and find a gift outside your door, leave it untouched. Someone else will come to claim it before dawn. Rule 3. When you check a guest in, always count the number of people in their party. If the number changes during their stay, alert the manager immediately. I laughed at those rules at first, thought they were part of some elaborate prank, but that was before I saw the things that wander these halls at night. Before I heard the voices whispering my name from rooms that were supposed to be empty. Before I realized that breaking a rule doesn't mean getting fired. It means something else entirely. And now, I have to ask, would you still book a room here? Most hotels have a history. Ours has a legend. Before it became the quiet, unassuming place it is today, the building served another purpose, a place for the forgotten, the lost, and the unwanted. A sanatorium, if the rumors are to be believed, but not the kind that healed. The kind that swallowed people whole. Patients checked in, but records show very few ever left. The basement was rumored to be the heart of it all. Secretive experiments. Patients locked away and forgotten. Some say the doctors weren't just tending to the sick. They were searching for something, testing the limits of human existence itself. And then, one day, the doors simply closed. No explanation. No final records. The place stood abandoned for decades, untouched by time. Until a new owner came along, saw an opportunity, and turned it into a hotel. A fresh coat of paint, new carpets, a change of name, and suddenly, the past was erased. Or so they thought. But ghosts don't care about renovations. They don't care about the sign out front that says, "Welcome." That's when the stories began. Guests hearing things at night, laughter from empty rooms, footsteps pacing above them when they were on the top floor, hotel staff quitting without notice, some leaving behind their uniforms in perfectly folded piles, as if they had simply stepped out of existence. The rules. They weren't written by management. They were warnings left behind by those who survived. I used to think they were just superstition, silly guidelines to keep nervous employees in check. That was before I saw the woman in room 207. Before I found the guest book with names that shouldn't exist. And before I learned the truth about what happens when you break one of the rules. Rule 1. Never check into room 207, no matter the circumstances. Rule 2. If you hear knocking between 3 o'clock and 3:15 a.m., do not answer. Rule 3. When you check out, leave your key inside the room. Never take it with you. Every hotel has rules. Ours just happened to be a little different. I started working here 6 months ago. Night shifts. It was easy money. Sit at the desk, check in late guests, and make sure no one sneaks in. But the first thing the manager, a tired-looking man named Greg, told me was, "Follow the rules, kid. They're not just for show." At first, I thought it was a joke, until I saw what happened to the last guy who broke them. It was my 3rd week. A guest, Mr. Holloway checked in late, around midnight. He was an older man, polite but distracted. As I handed him the key, he asked for a quiet room. Without thinking, I gave him 207. Greg wasn't there that night. I didn't even realize my mistake until I saw the look on the housekeeper's face the next morning. "You put someone in 207, she asked, whispering like she was afraid to say it too loud. I nodded. She swallowed hard, then muttered, "No one should be in there. Ever." When I checked the system, something was wrong. There was no record of Mr. Holloway checking in. No signature. No payment. Just gone. Like he was never there. I ran to 207 myself, knocked on the door. No answer. When I opened it, the bed was made, the towels folded neatly, and the key was on the nightstand. But the room smelled different, like burnt hair and something metallic, like rusted iron. I checked the security footage. It showed me handing the man a key, but nothing after that. No one entered room 207. Not once. Greg told me later, room 207 doesn't get guests, it gets offerings. I wanted to quit that night, but something worse happened the next time a rule was broken. And this time, I saw it with my own eyes. Rule number 2, if you hear knocking between 3 o'clock and 3:15 a.m., do not answer. I didn't understand why at first, not until I saw the night it happened. It was my second month at the hotel. A guest, a woman named Miss Odell, checked in late and seemed exhausted. She asked for a room far from noise. We put her in 312, near the end of the hall. At 3:07 a.m., the logbook showed she called the front desk, but I never heard the phone ring. The only reason I knew something was wrong was because the security camera in her hallway glitched. The screen went fuzzy, the timer froze, and then it resumed, showing her door wide open. I grabbed the spare key and ran up there. Inside, the room was empty. No bags, no clothes, just the faint scent of perfume lingering in the air. The bed was still made. The bathroom door stood open, the light flickering inside. But the most disturbing thing, the room phone was off the hook. And next to it was a message, not written in ink, carved into the wooden desk, the letters jagged and deep, as if scratched with fingernails. "Let him me out." I checked the security footage again. At 3:05 a.m., Miss Odell opened her door. She stood there, listening to something, then stepped out of frame. She never came back. Her key was still on the nightstand, just like Mr. Holloway's. Greg didn't say much when I told him. He only sighed and muttered. "She answered the knocking, didn't she?" I nodded. He shook his head. "They always do." I should have quit that night. I really should have. But I stayed, and I made one last mistake. The worst one. It happened on my final shift. The night I forgot rule number 3, and I paid for it. It's been 3 years since I left that job. I should have walked away after what happened in room 312, but I told myself I needed the paycheck, that if I just followed the rules, I'd be fine. But the rules didn't protect me. Not when I broke rule number 3. Not when I went into the basement. I never planned to go down there. Not until that one night, my last shift. It started with a sound. I was alone at the front desk, scrolling through the security feeds like always. Then, just past 2 a.m., I heard it. This faint, scraping noise, like something heavy being dragged across the floor. I checked the cameras. The hallways were empty. The lobby was silent. Then the noise came again, louder, and this time, I felt it. The floor vibrated beneath my feet. I glanced down. The old rug behind the desk had shifted. The edge was curled up, revealing something underneath. A door, a hatch. I had never noticed it before, never even thought to look. But now, staring at it, I felt something I can't explain, something heavy settling in my chest. I should have walked away, but the dragging sound was still there. It was coming from below. I knew in that moment that I wasn't alone, that something was waiting behind that door. I should have run, but I stepped forward, and then I opened it. I don't remember what happened next. I woke up outside the hotel. My hands were dirty. My shirt was torn. The front door was locked from the inside. And Greg was gone. I don't know what I let out that night. I don't want to know. But I still hear it. Every night at 3:07 a.m., I wake up to the sound of knocking. I don't answer. I never will. Because I know what happens when you break the rules. And I know it's still waiting. If you ever stay in an old hotel and they give you rules, follow them. I left that job 3 years ago. I moved to another city. I changed my number. I stopped speaking about what happened. But the past doesn't stay buried. Not when you've broken the rules. Because last night, someone slipped a note under my door. Some things, once let out, can never be put back. So if you ever stay in a hotel that has rules, don't break them. Because I did. And now, it knows my name.